Well, that was a quick open. Anyway, it's Jim. It's Amadeus. It's Thursday. Things happen on Thursdays. Amadeus, hope you're doing well. How'd you do last night?
Yeah, it was pretty mediocre day. Went 2-2 in Argentina. Cashed
Mhm.
another Copa de Brazil to keep my 100% record in the Copa de Brazil
All
going.
right.
So that was good. Had America Monero, but yeah, other than that, so it was a winning day in soccer. Really, 3-2, but went 1-2 in baseball. Got screwed by the Diamondbacks, who gave up 2 runs in the ninth inning to the Mets, and then the Yankees. The Yankees, man, I took them because of Randy Vasquez,
Mm-hmm.
and they were winning. I should have just taken the first five because as soon as they took Vasquez out, Nick Martinez coughed it up in, or no, Nick Ramirez, sorry, coughed it up in the sixth inning. Gave up four
That
runs,
yeah.
3 runs.
There was a very interesting and strange, and fortunately, um, everyone was okay situation in that game. It was delayed for 17 minutes. There are times when you just, accidentally stumble upon something, which happened last night. So I flipped on the Orioles and the Yankees game, and right at the top of the inning, when the shortstop for the Orioles was attempting to make a double play, he airmailed it over the first baseman, and it hit the first base cameraman right in between the eyes and knocked him down.
Oh
And
wow.
so there was a 17-minute delay because, he had to be taken to the hospital. And it was just a very wild scene as, you know, you, I mean, having been involved in many broadcasts and certainly a number of baseball games, you always worry about your first and third base cameramen, the low cameras, the cameras that are down field level, because those guys aren't looking at the baseball; they're looking at what they can see, on the viewfinders. And sometimes you got to be careful. I mean, down there. But honestly, that's the first time I've ever seen somebody throw a ball and hit the guy. You know, um, he just airmailed it, and it just unfortunately for the guy who ran the low first camera got whacked with it. So 17 minutes they delayed the game and then picked it back up. But it was um, it was a something that very seldomly happens. Happy to say that all's good. He you know I don't think I think other than perhaps a small concussion, I think he's fine. So that's given the possibilities, that's not a bad result. So there you go. But yeah, it was a bad night for the Yankees all around. Their cameraman gets whacked and the team gets whacked. So there you go. And that was kind of an important, not kind of an important, it was an important series for the Yankees because at the end of the day, I mean, they're chasing the Orioles for second place, and you can't afford to lose those games, especially at home.
Yeah, and so they still have the one game today. It was a four
Right.
game series, but if they win yesterday, then you guaranteed making up 2 games on the Orioles. Now
Right.
you put yourself. You had the lead yesterday too, and
Hmm.
Vasquez, pitched his tail off, and then just to blow it, just have the bullpen blow it in the sixth inning.
Hmm.
And yeah, now the Yankees are in a situation where it was looking like you were going to gain 2 games on the Orioles, and now if the
Hmm.
Orioles win today, well, you split the series 2-2 and didn't really gain any ground, did you?
Right. You wasted opportunities at home.
Exactly.
I mean, when you don't often get a four-game series at home, and you got to take advantage of those when you can. And as you say, a split doesn't do you damn good again. So there's that. Um, the Rays, meanwhile, the team that the Orioles are chasing, have caught a Cincinnati Reds team that just on the road doesn't want to lose. So they won again last night, and that gave the Orioles a chance to pick up a game on the Rays, who just simply, and I think they play again today. So I'm pretty sure that Tampa Bay is going to be really happy to see Cincinnati hit the road as quickly as humanly possible. That's the good news. The bad news is that for the Rays, the weekend series is with the Atlanta Braves. So that's not necessarily something that I think anybody would want to. Those the two best teams record-wise in baseball will face off, and it'll be an interesting series between the Braves and the Rays, who don't often play each other. So it'll be
Yeah,
very,
and
very
really
interesting.
this is like the first part of the season where the Rays haven't had the best record in the MLB anymore.
Right. And
Yeah,
that
so
things are well, and we're getting this is the weekend, prior to the All-Star break.
yeah, and then you
So
got the Braves that have won like 18 of their last 20
I
games.
know they're just ripping them off, and away they go.
Yeah,
So
and I believe tomorrow it's Charlie Morton starting, and wouldn't that be his? Would it be his first start? I don't know actually
it
if
might
he's
be the first
faced the
time
Rays.
he's faced. No, wait a minute. No, I think it is. I think it's the first time that he's faced the Rays since he was with the Rays.
That would be twice this year because we had the Snell one earlier too.
Oh yeah. The Snow when
So
Snow was with San Diego Padres.
it took
So
about 3 years, but the Rays are seeing all their exes now.
yeah, they're getting all the old guys. It is what it is, right? So that we're gonna have some interesting baseball over the weekend. Wimbledon continues to roll on, and it's still the first week, and there's still a lot of things going on, and interesting and kind of fun to see Roger Federer sitting down with Kate Middleton at in the Royal Box and watching tennis the other day at Wimbledon. So I guess if you're life's good if you're Roger. There's no question about that.
Well, I mean,
But
he's pretty much tennis royalty.
yeah, he is. He's uh, there are more people call him king than possibly Charles. So we'll see. But I haven't seen not a major upset situation. Things seem to be moving along normally at Wimbledon at this point. Way too early to tell. We'll catch that up on next
Well,
week. But
there's been so many rain delays. I don't know how you can see any upsets going.
well, yeah. I mean, but see what that probably will do. Normally, the first week, the first Sunday, there's no action, and obviously that's not going to be the case this week because they have so many rain up, games to catch up that it's going to be really tough to basically not play games on Sunday. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think there's probably a 80% chance that they're going to play games on Sunday because they just can't. It's one thing because they have the roof over the main. The main area, but they don't have roofs out in the outer courts. So if you were on center court, fine, but everybody else is still stuck. So we'll see how that plays out. And so yeah, that's where we are. A light schedule today in soccer, right? Or am I missing something?
Yeah, there's just the Argentina slate. Really, it's a bigger Argentina slate. There's about
Mm-hmm.
five or six games, but yeah, other than that, I mean, really, there's nothing to the weekend. The Brazilian League and even the CONCACAF Gold Cup, all of that starts back on Saturday. So
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot made recently here in the United States about how difficult it is, and we're talking now about the women's World Cup. How difficult it is for anyone to do a three-peat, and while the U.S. women's team is certainly a favorite, it's the task at hand is not an easy one.
yeah, it's definitely it's not easy to three-peat in any sport, but the U.S. women's team is just they're so dominant. There's only been 8 women's World Cup
Right.
in history, and USA has won 4 of them. and obviously they've won back to back now, right? There
Hmm.
hasn't been a another champion since Japan won it in 2011.
Right.
So yeah, definitely, definitely, it's tough. But I think USA will probably get the three-peat,
Hmm.
but this might be their final year of absolute dominance on the world stage.
Hmm.
I'm not saying they're going to be bad. That's definitely not the case. But they might not be the number one team in the coming years
Hmm.
just because this is kind of like, I would say, the last hurrah for that golden age of the U.S. women's
Right.
national
Yeah.
team. There a lot of them are north of the age of 30 now,
Hmm.
so maybe you get a few return in another 4 years. But some of the ones that are closer to like 35 and 36, they
Hmm.
might not return. And even if they do, pushing 40 years old, when you have younger women coming up
Right.
in their 20s, right? Like how much of an effect are you going to be on the team? So
Hmm.
I look at it like this is definitely probably like the last year for that golden age
Hmm.
before a new generation has to get ushered in. But
Right.
we'll just have to see how these 20-year-olds, once they get their opportunity to start
Yeah.
over the veterans.
Yeah. Alex Morgan is 34. She's going to be playing Megan Rappaport. You're right. There has to be a transition from the old guard to the new guard. And, how much of a fall off is going to be there, I think obviously depends on, I think getting to play in a World Cup and if they can get as many of the younger players into the games as possible, if nothing else, getting them some game recognition and the feel for what a women's World Cup is like, certainly is going to help. But you're right. I mean, the the rest of the world's catching up, and that's good. That's a good thing. You want everybody to, you want competition, and you want competition at the highest level. And I'm not one of these people that are so into, well, we got to win everything, that I don't appreciate and hope that other countries aspire um, to do that. And there's certainly talent across the globe. So, the competition is only going to get better, and I think that's good for the sport.
Yeah, it's funny because on the men's side, the U.S. is just catching up with the rest of the world, and then on the women's side, it's like the rest of the world is just catching up with the U.S.
Yeah,
But yeah, like I said, like the U.S. is not going to be bad.
right.
They have great young players. Like there's this
Mhm.
one star, I forget what her name is, but she's 22 years old, and she's going to be an absolute star on the U.S. women's national team. But these younger players, yeah, like I said, they're really good, but they haven't proven themselves. Like
Mhm.
obviously, this some of these older women on the team who have
Mhm.
made the U.S. such a decorated team in women's soccer over the years. So this younger generation are going to have to come up when they get their chance and still prove themselves, I think.
Right. And I think that um, if you are, Alex Morgan, like we talked about, somebody like that, uh, you want to be able to pass the torch to these other kids and be mentors to them, and make sure that the legacy that you started isn't long since past. And I think that's going to be something that we're going to see. And one of the things that we see now is that some of these young, uh, you know, U.S. women are going and playing some games in Europe for some of the pro leagues over there, which is good. The North American, women's soccer league has really kind of had difficulty getting off the ground, and it's started and stopped a couple of times, and now hopefully they've got it under a good situation where it will flourish, but it has not mirrored. And I know the goal was to mirror. the WNBA. That has not happened, and the investment from MLS teams or any team for that matter to put the necessary cash into it to make it a solid league has not materialized yet. Hopefully, this new incarnation of the league will be better.
It's funny because I actually think the talent in the NWSL is better than the talent in the MLS.
Hmm.
So yeah, take that as you will, but definitely I would say the NWSL is probably one of the better women's leagues in the world, and
Hmm.
not from the standpoint because obviously it's had trouble getting off the ground and all these other things, and I'm not talking necessarily from a rating standpoint or
Sure.
that type of thing. I'm talking just from a talent level. I would say the NWSL probably has some of the best women playing
Hmm.
in it in the world, obviously because a majority of the U.S. women's national team plays in the league, and they are the best team on the planet and have been for quite a while. So that's why I would say, it is one of the best women's leagues in the world by far.
Yeah, from my standpoint, what I was bringing up is the financial aspect of the ownership groups, right? You will have one ownership group that will sink, a a, a large amount of cash into their team, and you got a lot of haves and have-nots in the league. There's not the balance of ownership that you want in a professional sports league. Um, you know, and that has it does have something to do with the play on the field, but it doesn't have a lot to do with it. And you've got a ton of North American young, soccer players from Canada, the United States, few Mexico, stars that have come up and played. So yeah, I mean, the level of play is fine. It's just now the matter of balancing it up and finding the proper financing so that the league has a future and can build on it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially when we see what's going on with the women's soccer over in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
It's been doing nothing but gaining lots of traction. They're having tens of thousands of people show up to these games. Obviously, they have their Champions League, which is another thing that North America doesn't have really
Right.
for the women's side. So it's
Doesn't really have it for the men's side. Well
yeah,
organized
again,
anyway.
like I said, that's not so. Going towards these types of tournaments, how there's not there's not a Champions League for the women's side, and even like a Copa America for the men's side. Like I said, that's not something that I blame on men versus women type thing. That's more of something I blame on CONCACAF
Oh yeah.
because it's
No,
their
you're 100%
job.
right.
They are in charge of all North American soccer, men
Hmm.
and women. And so, like, again, when I see stuff like, hey, Copa America, you want to take, let's go to CONMEBOL and see if they'll take our six best teams and let's just, screw everybody else. Like,
Right.
that's a cop out to me. And that's not CONCACAF doing their job. That's just laziness, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And yeah, honestly, it's really it's CONCACAF. CONCACAF is a complete joke as an organization, and compared to UEFA and CONMEBOL, who really CONMEBOL has been around the longest, even longer than UEFA. Uh, they're never gonna be able to compete. This is part of the reason why I say the MLS is never gonna get to that stage because when you have an organization like CONCACAF
Hmm.
running the show who clearly doesn't give a crap about what they're doing, then it's never going to grow the way it would grow in these other continents that have better organizations leading the way.
Well, given the fact that you spend a lot of time watching, you know, tournaments from all around the world, why would you not want, I'm now talking about FIFA or whomever, the governing bodies, why would you not want to have something like, I would love to see, tournaments where the best teams in South America and the best teams in North America would play in like a Euro, you know, the European soccer has the Euros every 4 years. Why would you not want to see the same thing on the, North and South America?
Yeah, and like I said again, that's on CONCACAF. There's been no attempt to even get it done. And only now that soccer just as a sport in general is starting to grow in US and Canada,
Mhm.
what do they do? They go and crawl to CONMEBOL and say, take our best teams and we'll host your next Copa America. But that really does nothing for anybody because
Right.
the teams like US and Canada and Mexico and some of the smaller ones, probably like Costa Rica and a few others that are going to be playing in this Copa America,
Mhm.
they are going to have no chance against teams like Brazil, Argentina. They're going to struggle with the Colombias and the Ecuadors, who have a very good team, very solid players, as we saw in the World Cup. Um, Obviously, Colombia wasn't in it, but Colombia has been a force in the World Cup in the past. So first of all, it does nothing for the teams that are actually playing in the competition because they're not going to do well against the South American teams who, like I said, CONMEBOL has been around the longest. South America, pretty much like soccer may have been invented in England, but South America's pretty much claimed the sport as their own.
Right.
So like you're not going to be able to compete with that. And then you've also done nothing for all the countries like Honduras and all the other Central American countries that you're leaving
Right.
out of this competition now because you're too small and you're too bad, so we don't care about you. You're not important. Is basically what CONCACAF is saying, which is a shame because those are the teams you're governing, and you're basically telling your own team, well, your own teams in your organization, you guys all suck, and we don't want to do anything for you.
Right. The other thing too is, you're talking about the growing of the sport. But the importance is you want to see, you know, the sport played on the highest level. I mean, if you go to an NBA game, you're watching basketball played at the highest level. You watch it NHL hockey, you're watching that sport at the highest level. Major League Baseball, you're watching that at the highest level. You're not necessarily seeing in MLS the you know game being played at the highest level. And perhaps if we had the opportunity to see some of these, international cups where basically, as I said, it's a South American, North American situation, just like the Euros. I think that would, you'd start selling out stadiums, you start getting people excited, and the buzz would be there. Um, but I don't, you can get 80,000 people to go out and see the Brazilian team practice if they came to the United States. So, I just think that we're missing the boat here on having some sort of tournament that would spur interest in the two Americas, and it would benefit both sides.
Yeah, and the other thing is on both the men's and the women's side,
Hmm.
the winner of the Euro Cup always plays the Copa America winner.
Right.
Okay, we saw Argentina. That one was last year. We saw Argentina beat Italy before the World Cup. That was last summer, but
Hmm.
that was Copa America champions versus Euro Cup champions. And even just, I think it was a few weeks ago, they had the women's CONMEBOL UEFA Cup of Champions, where England, the last Euro Cup winner on the women's, that was last year, they played Brazil, who was the Copa America winners last year.
Right.
And that one, it was a 1-1 draw, went to penalties, which England won. But again, why are UEFA and CONMEBOL doing these competitions together? And nobody else is getting in there because UEFA and CONMEBOL know what they're doing. And
Hmm.
you could argue that with the CONCACAF and even the AFC leagues in Asia, that oh well, UEFA and CONMEBOL, they have their thing and they don't want to work with them. That's a lie. That's an absolute lie. Or else why would CONMEBOL take in the CONCACAF teams? It's literally the CONCACAF and the AFC organizations themselves not putting the effort in to get something done for the teams
Well,
that play in their
the
organization.
other aspect to that is the amount of money that's laying on the table from the potential of television or streaming or whomever that would take, up that, you know, take up the mantle and want that to be seen. You're leaving cash on the table in that regard.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like FIFA doesn't want to be bothered with this stuff. Like, yeah, FIFA's the large governing body, and they're technically in charge of UEFA, CONMEBOL, all these other places. But the reason why they created those factions is because they already had too much on their hands, and they were basically saying, okay, if you want to do more for your continents, UEFA, you're in charge of Europe. CONCACAF, you're in charge of North America. CONMEBOL, CONMEBOL, they've been around so long, but they you're in charge of South America, and these are supposed to be governing bodies. And if you notice, right, the Champions League is the UEFA Champions League. It is the CONMEBOL Copa Libertadores. These are events that are ran by the organization. The Euro Cup is the UEFA Euro Cup. So once again, the onus is on CONCACAF and the organization to create these competitions. Now, obviously, they have the Gold Cup now, but the Gold Cup is nothing to me, especially when you're going to have the MLS run at the same time and not treat it like an important competition. So now, you have one of your largest leagues. I would say them and the Liga MX in Mexico. You have one of the two largest leagues in North America running during the CONCACAF Gold Cup. So now you have players like Andre Blake, who either has to say, well, do I want to help my team, on the way to the supporter shield, or do I want to help Jamaica maybe go win a Gold Cup? And now you're giving players tough decisions. I found out the U.S., half of those players that played in the CONCACAF Nations League have decided not even to play in the Gold Cup. So that's why the U.S. team, is not as good as it was in the Nations League a few weeks ago, because the talent's not there. But this is my point. It's like, it's, again, the onus is on the organization. You're making bad decisions. You're forcing players to choose, well, you can play in this competition, you can play for your team, but you only get to pick one. They don't make the European or the South American players play that. They carve out the time in the schedule.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy, and we saw over the 4th of July weekend, a holiday, I should say. The MLS split up their games. They didn't have them all on one day. And on the weekend of this past holiday weekend, we saw something that has got to be encouraging, and that is that MLS had a record weekend of attendance, including 80,000 at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena to see the two LA teams face off.
Yeah, and that 80,000 is a massive number, because it's not a single hockey arena that sits that many people. It's just not really, obviously, a lot of basketball courts they share with the hockey arena. So when we're talking about stadium capacity in North America, stadium capacity is not there like it is in some of these other European cities. Like when you see when you're talking about some of the largest soccer stadiums in Europe, right? You were talking about like my AC Milan plays in San Siro, the seats like 80,000. That's just on average, right? Like that's the stadium was built to support 80,000 fans. There's others that support 100,000 fans, right? The stadium in River Plate that River Plate plays at in Argentina is massive. Like that, and especially if you're an away team going into that, like that's a massive atmosphere. So yeah, absolutely. To see that at the Rose Bowl, obviously they didn't play at a generic soccer stadium, but to see that, if we open up the capacity to the kind of stadium that, they would have in Europe, you would see like your Barcelona play at. Well, now all of a sudden you can sell out that stadium in North America. That's a very encouraging sign. Absolutely.
Well, that's, by the way, I think you mentioned it. The Rose as any NFL stadium. There are college stadiums larger, but the Rose Bowl at 80,000, the NFL kind of caps it out in that 75 to 80,000 range in their stadiums. So, you're figuring, all right, fine. We got 80,000 people there, to a building. That's a pretty much, they pushed the envelope as to how much could be in there. They might have been able to fit a few more, but not many. And so, that that does get your attention. And you got to believe, if you're a player and you step on the pitch and you look up there and there's just a sea of people, and everywhere you look, that's got to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, and when we say 80,000, we're not talking like, 79 something and rounding up. We're actually rounding down. It was closer to 82,000.
Right.
So we're being a little generous here, but
We're doing our best to be. Yeah, we're doing our best to make sure people realize that, hey, we're doing okay.
And the Galaxy won that game. LAFC still hasn't picked themselves up out of that Champions League. And I'm telling you, like, losing Champions League was everything for them, because they won the Supporters Shield last year. They won the MLS Cup last year. And now when they lost that Champions League, for them, there's nothing to play for, because they look at it like, what are we going to do? Go out and win the Supporters Shield and MLS Cup again? We could, but we did that last year. We wanted the Champions League. So,
right.
I think LAFC might be a team to avoid in the MLS until they get their crap together. Because, like I said, they're a good enough team where, they could coast the rest of the season and squeak into the playoffs in one of the last spots and still go on a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, but you got to get over that. I mean, at some point in time, you just got to go, okay, we didn't get that accomplished. But now, usually that Spurs team still really want to come back and go, okay, damn it, we didn't get that. Let's go get it this time.
And I think another reason is because Seattle actually won it last year. So,
right.
They're kind of demotivated in the sense that, like, wow, we couldn't even do what Seattle did, and we're the best team in the MLS. Like, Seattle's not that great, don't get me wrong. I know they won Champions League last year, and they've been such a consistent, solid team in the MLS. They're always there in a competitive team. I'm not saying they're bad, but this is not the dominant Seattle team that we saw, win 3 to 4 MLS Cups a few years ago, when it was them and Toronto FC in the final every year. So, yeah, those teams are long gone. Obviously, Toronto is one of the worst teams in the league. But Seattle's still a great team. But if you look, they struggle to score goals. Their team is aging. One of their star players was Rui Diaz for the longest time, and he's still on the team. And he's getting, north of like 35 now. So,
well, the joke was that he would retire when his son took over on the team.
Yeah, there you go. And never retire, but. But yeah, with Seattle, and again, going back to the CONCACAF Gold Cup, I think Seattle's missing some of their best players right now because they're playing in the Gold Cup.
Yeah, and the point you brought up being Seattle has done. I honestly think that one of my favorite, back in the NASL days, and it's now, I hope it's still there. The Vancouver-Seattle rivalry back in the day was really, that was a heated rivalry. Those guys didn't like each other, and they wanted bragging rights, and it was all-out war when they played each other. And I don't know that it's the same, in this incarnation of those teams, but certainly the Sounders and the Whitecaps, just were brutally, interested in doing nothing but beating the other side.
So it's interesting you say that, because, like, personally, in my opinion, I think the Seattle-Vancouver rivalry is always there in every sport. That's the whole reason why they gave the Kraken to Seattle in the NHL, because they wanted Vancouver. You got 2 Alberta teams in the West there, but really no rival for Vancouver. They were kind of like the third team out.
Right.
So that's that's perfect for them right across. And obviously, with the Mariners, they're basically like the Toronto Blue Jays number 2 to Canadians when the Blue Jays aren't playing there. So they're cheering for the Mariners. So there's definitely a level of rivalry / support for each sport. Now, with the MLS, I think you brought up a very interesting point, because I would have to agree And I think it's more that big brother, little brother thing where Seattle views Portland as their rival
Mhm.
and Vancouver views them as Seattle.
I think it's possible. I know that
And then
Portland.
Portland views it as Seattle
Well,
for
yeah,
sure.
Portland. That's kind of like I'll make the analogy in baseball where the Red Sox and the Yankees are rivals, but then the Mets and the Yankees are rivals. Well, no, they're not. They are the Mets fans, but the Yankee fans aren't going to buy it. I
Yeah.
really think the true Seattle fan is more of a rival fan with the Whitecaps you know in Vancouver than they are with Portland. Portland's kind of like the little brother that you just want to just put in, say leave me alone, don't quit annoying me.
And
Um,
Portland always comes to play, so it makes perfect sense.
oh yeah, no, they go after it, but and I'm not just not disregarding or being um, rude to the folks in Portland. They've done a fantastic job, but it is what it is, and I just think that they're just not there. When it comes to rivals, Vancouver and Seattle have gotten a good rivalry going.
Yeah, definitely. And that was the point I was trying to make with Portland is like they always get up to play against Seattle, but
Hmm.
Seattle doesn't necessarily take them seriously all the time.
Yeah, and they've released the Kraken, so that they've got that going for them too.
Yeah, so definitely some interesting stuff there for sure.
Well, it looks like PSG is loading up. They went to Slovenia and they went to Spain to pick up some talent.
Rebuilding. I haven't really been following too much
Yeah, they got
on the small
Slovenian
sides.
defender Milan Skinar. Is it
Oh
SKI?
yeah, Skriniar. He's actually
Skriniar.
from Inter Milan. Yeah.
Okay. And the striker that they got from Spain is Marco Arsenio, and they're joining PSG.
Yeah, so there you go. They get picking up the Messi replacements
Right?
and all the other players they've shed.
Is Mbappe coming back, or is that we don't know?
Yeah, so from what I read, Mbappe's plan is to finish out the contract till 2024.
Okay, so he's gonna hang with them through the contract.
And he's probably happier now that Messi's gone.
Yeah,
I definitely think, I never really thought it was going to work when the two of them were together, and obviously we saw little kid Mbappe come out at the beginning of last season. But
right.
yeah, I definitely think so. There's only 1 year left on his contract. From what I understand, he wants to play it out, and especially with Messi gone, I don't think you're going to hear any rumblings of transfers. I think he's just going to be happy. He's going to play his last season for PSG. And then he's going to go to Real Madrid, where he'll be joined with Endrick from Palmeiras, who they'll also be getting in the 2024 summer.
Uh-huh.
And I think, was there somebody else Real Madrid was supposed to go? Well, they just signed Jude Bellingham. So they're definitely, they're reloading with the younger players, this Real Madrid team.
Well, and the other thing too, and it's kind of the fun part, right? Is that um, I'm guessing that someone who is of Mbappe's caliber um, might have a say in the roster.
Oh yeah, it depends. I mean, with a club like Real Madrid, I don't know if I
No,
don't
I
know
was
if
just
they.
talking about PSG. I wasn't talking about.
Oh yeah, PSG for sure, probably right. You want to keep your 1 star happy at this point,
Right.
knowing he's going to be leaving. You don't want an early exit, or what you see with Neymar, where I got to go to my sister's birthday for the next six
Right.
months. So
Oh, and
don't
by the way,
bother
I got
me.
27 sisters. Yes.
You sound very, and I'm curious what happens with Neymar, because at this point he should just retire. I don't even know why he keeps playing if he just wants to enjoy his time. Like he's had such a good career, right? I'm not saying he's bad. He's a great player,
Yeah.
but it's that time where there's a lot of good young players coming up, the Hollands, the Bellinghams, the Mbappes,
Well,
and it's
we talked
time to
about
let them come through.
We talked about this the other day, though. A guy like Neymar, if he came to the MLS, there would be money for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? That's actually, I didn't even think about that, Jim. If Miami has the money, Neymar goes to join Messi. He followed him from Barcelona to PSG. Wouldn't shock me. And then he would also be in the same time zone pretty much as Brazil,
Right.
his home country. Oh, it makes perfect sense. I don't know why Miami hasn't even thought about going for Neymar. Actually,
well,
that's ridiculous.
If I'm the MLS, right, I would want Neymar in Orlando, because that way there would be a rivalry between Messi and Neymar.
The problem is that's never going to happen because I don't think they'll play against each other. They played so many years together.
Oh, they played so they either play together or they don't play at all.
Yeah. Like they played so many years together at Barcelona with Luis Suarez there on the other wing. It was always Neymar, Messi, Luis Suarez. Suarez is actually down in Brazil playing for Grêmio, who's the second best team in the league behind Botafogo right now. Who would have figured coming into the season? But especially when they're in Serie B last year. But yeah, definitely, I think he followed him to PSG when he went, and it wouldn't shock me to see him follow him to Miami, and that would be the only way they would have to play. They would have to play on the same team. I'm telling you, he won't go to another team. And especially Messi, too. Messi wants a friend, right? Like, obviously, Higuain's down there in Miami, who was a former teammate. And Neymar would be a teammate at the club level.
That would be pretty fun. I mean, if you're going to put him on. I'm having two stars on one team is kind of. And then the owner being Beckham makes it, it's like you've got. It's like you took all the good toys and put them in the same place.
Well, to be fair to Beckham, I would go for it and spend the money, bring in the stars, because we've seen these expansion teams take off, like LAFC, St. Louis this year. Nashville has blown up ever since they came in the league. They've been adopted the third best in the MLS right now. There was Austin last year. So this is what I mean. Miami, since they came into the league, they were kind of more like a Cincinnati. They never really took off. And I think, maybe it's time that they're due. You're bringing in Messi. Why not grab his, best friend too, who no other team probably wants to have him because he never seems to play anymore.
Right.
And let him play in the MLS. And like I said, it's perfect for Neymar. It checks every box. You're playing with a friend. You're in a nice location. You're in the same time zone, so you can just fly down and go see your sister on a short flight. It makes perfect sense.
Well, I mean, to in that realm, okay, talking about that, there are, 3 or 4 daily flights from Miami down there. So, I mean,
yeah, and if you're going to come to the U.S., Miami is like as south as it gets. So
yeah, so you could basically, all right, if that's the way you wanted to play it, you could actually take Miami and market them, down there, and have people come up, on a holiday to Miami to watch, to watch the two of them play.
And you know what? Think about that, Jim. You're getting the two biggest countries in South America, because with Messi, you get Argentina, but with Neymar, you get Brazil.
Right.
Oh, man. Where is Don Garber? Give me a goddamn call, man. Honestly. Okay, get Apple on the phone. We're splitting the Messi contract, right?
Giving Neymar bits. Yeah. I mean,
I just fixed your league right there. Bring Neymar into Miami.
But look at what you could do, talking about those two teams, right? Brazil and Argentina. If you had a pipeline, and the MLS was that pipeline to bringing those kids up, look at what that would do to inject life into the league.
Absolutely.
And by the
Absolutely.
way, look at how many Apple subscriptions you can sell in South America.
For sure, right? Like the move on so many. And you know what's funny is I never even thought about it before you pointed it out. Like something you said just triggered it in my mind. But the move makes so much sense on so many levels. So I'm gonna have to look into that after this. I gotta
Well,
go
yeah,
look into Neymar's contract situation. I don't
yeah.
even know
Check.
because like he didn't even finish the season with PSG. Like he barely played the last half of the season.
Well, I think that was back when we were doing when you, me, Sean, we were all there. I don't. I think that I don't think he played the last 6 or 7 games.
No, he didn't, because then he went to Carnival after his sister's birthday, right?
Oh,
So like this,
right, right,
that's what I
right.
mean. Like that, like ever since the World Cup, his whole season was a write off. And when you do again, right at his age, like it's clearly he doesn't care playing competitively anymore, or he would
Yeah,
have wanted to finish the season. Like even Messi after suspension finished the last game of the season, right? He could
right,
have just said, "F you guys, I'm leaving."
right,
But he didn't do that. So again, like when teams see that behavior from Neymar, nobody's going to sign him. None of these big Champions League contenders in Europe are going to sign him. So the move makes so much sense on so many levels. Come and join Messi in Miami.
right. And look at think of the merch and all the other stuff they can sell.
Exactly right. No, like it makes, and then you got the South America connection there. You can expand the MLS to South America because you got the two biggest stars and the two biggest countries down there.
Hmm.
So all I gotta say is Don Garber, give me a call, man. I can just flood ideas like this out all day. Let's go.
Well, and we actually should be associate commissioners. I really agree with that. But because the other
We
thing
should
it's going to
at
do,
this
right?
point.
It's going to spur on the other teams to want to do something, that is where identify a player that your market can get their arms around.
Exactly. That's another great point, right? Like, so Orlando sees now I got to compete with that in the neighborhood, two of the
Right.
best players in the world. I got to go out and get me a star now.
Hmm. And
And then
again,
it trickles its way up.
these stars have got tread on them. Okay, we know that. All right,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're not saying you're getting Neymar, at his best, or Messi at his best, but still, you know, half
You're getting
Messi and
post
half
sister's
Neymar
birth.
is
You're
still
getting post
better than a
sister
lot of
birthday
what you're
Neymar.
watching, right?
Yeah. No. Exactly. Right.
So to me, that's the kind of things you have to do. And when the NASL started, um, you know, uh, George Strawbridge, who owned Campbell's Soup, was the owner of the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And Strawbridge figured, all right, I could go one of two ways. I could go and get a lot of Spanish speaking players and, and bring them, you know, in, or I could go over and try to find, you know, guys in the Premier League who are nearing, the end of their career, but are characters. And he literally put together a team of, the team looked like a group that Ted Lasso would have. But they were all talented, and they all, they spoke English, which was very helpful at the time. And and they because they were all, very outgoing and very gregarious and all that, it was an easy sell, and you could sell 30, 40,000 seats to a game because these guys were just the reason they embraced the concept of the name Rowdies better than any. I mean, they were Rowdies. I mean, you had a guy like Rodney Marsh who played in England, and Rodney, could still score with anybody. I mean, he still had that in him, and he also had the cockiness that it takes. And there was one day that he didn't particularly like the call of a an official, and he basically turned around and mooned him. He got the red card, but everybody in the building, was crazy about what happened with Rod. And so, you had those kind of characters. And so, it can be done. You just have to pick your stars. And like I said,
Yeah, no,
you know,
definitely.
Rodney had tread on him. There's no question about that. But he was able to perform at a high enough level to make it look, you know, to work.
Yeah, definitely, right? And that experience will go a long way too, especially with a lot of younger players on the team.
Well, I mean, Red Bull brought in Terry Henry, okay, in fairness to them, but
Yeah,
Terry
and
Henry was so
he's
much
still working
better.
over here for their
Right.
halftime show,
Yeah.
basically.
Terry Henry was so much better than the players they put around him that, you know, there would be times he would just pass the ball and you're like, wait a minute, there should have been a guy there, but he's not there. So, you know, it was kind of like Terry Henry versus you know, whomever they were playing because his Red Bull supporting cast was pathetic.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, it is what it is. All right, let's talk a little bit about what you got going coming up, bud.
Yeah, you can get my plays at pigal.com and pickadvisor.com. I got two baseball up, small baseball card today, and I got three games in Argentina. There was four, but one of them is live right now and actually about to finish. But the other ones don't start till about like 7 Eastern time. So this was just the one afternoon one they put in.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we've fixed the MLS, we'll be back tomorrow to fix other leagues around the world. So,
Probably just the MLS more.
yeah, probably just the talk a little bit more about that. So maybe we'll talk a little baseball. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff going on this weekend, including Wimbledon. Those matches that haven't been rained out yet, and so we'll get around to it. We got a big weekend coming up. All right, guys. Have a great day. For Amadeus, I'm Jim. Take care.